Hello, viewers. Kubiando Kith and Kin. I'm SB, and welcome back to what is almost certainly the final episode of our adventure here in Road Warden. And I have had a wonderful time with this game. I've really been pleased with it. I hope that that is true for at least some of you out there. So we have one day here, one day remaining, and there are a couple of things I would like to get done. First, I would like to go to Eudocia and get rewarded for the rest of our for us placing the rest of the bronze rods, because we placed them all, so she does owe us some money. I also think she probably should know what happened to Asterion. And then we have to talk to the tribe of the Green Mountain. We told them we would tell them what happened on the island. I intend to keep that promise. The other thing that I think should be done is we should try to deal with the Steep House situation. We should try to go back to Howler's Dell and, I don't know, try to get the people to throw Theus out or something. But I think that's less important than this other stuff. So what I would like to do is head east first, and then we'll see about the other things. So we don't actually need anything else, and I don't want to sell Asterian's stuff just yet because I don't trust the prices he's trying to give me. Yeah, okay. So let's leave. That's all I need. Nothing interesting to say to the guards. Nope. Okay. Travel. So I think we're going to just ask her to see us, even though it's not her preferred time of the day. She might be cool with this now anyway, honestly. And then we want to cross through the middle of the forest and hit Howler's Dell, like at the end of the day, maybe. There's no reason for us to go back to Foggy's. No, I think we're mostly done with other stuff. I guess the only real question is, would we want to go to the tribe first before we go to Eudocia? It probably doesn't matter, right? There's probably no reason to do one before the other. I am a little worried that maybe we're not even going to have time to make it back to Howler's Dell. If we could only do one, I would rather do this, I think, because we promised them we would. And we don't want to do anything that makes them even more isolated from everybody else, right? So let's head in that direction. We'll swing by here first. Okay, yeah, she's cool with us coming in during the day. So Asterian's dead. You describe your expedition, but she pays little attention, observing the ends of her hair. Just tell me what happened. Your vague answer is met with a sad yet accepting smile. Too bad he chose to die alone. She's sad. I still feel like I don't really know what happened here. I did place the rest of your bronze rods. Okay. Yep, she asked us for details, and then... Do you need help with anything else? Not that I can do very much. Her lips form a shadow of a smile. I do, but it won't be as much of an ordeal, just a simple errand. She moves closer and pulls out a dry flower petal from her pocket. See, it's like an orange tulip, but has much larger leaves. It's called snakebait. Bring me one or two, freshly picked. I'll pay you 5 dragons. Fair enough? Any tips where I can find it? That's the hard part. You can try in the western villages or in the deep woods. They need light, so not in caves, but stay in shadows, so below trees. Edges of meadows would be my guess. Or maybe you'll find one just by the main road. Keep your eyes open. Sure, deal. So that's got us over 50 coins. I'm really hoping that's enough for our gather wealth objective. Yeah, and I don't have any reason to buy a spirit rock. So I go outside. 3:45 to the tribe. No, I think we're going to have time to get everything done. Where did I find... Is there any chance I'm going to be able to also do this? Because I already found snakebait once. But I don't remember where it was. And we used the snakebait that we had to make a thing, and so I don't have any more. But yeah, also I don't remember where the hell it was. Shoot. I guess it probably doesn't matter. It probably doesn't matter. I'm going to stop in front of the nest real quick. We'll just see. Okay, yep. Just keep moving. Alright, I enter the cave. The chief and shaman are already in the chamber chatting with each other. They welcome you with polite nods. I bring news of what I saw on High Island. Sharing the story of your journey takes you a long time. You get many questions from both of the leaders, and some of the more nuanced descriptions use words that are not known to them. Finally, you describe the cave and Asterian's treasure. Gyan looks at the rocks below her. Cephas speaks in her direction, with disappointment flowing through every sound. So after all, he was yet another cell lusting after wealth. You flinch when he reaches for his sword, but he uses it as a support for his crossed arms. Asterian is yet another sign that the city folk haven't changed. Yet so far, you've shown us nothing but kindness. Why have you returned to us with this tale, Samhain? I just wanted to tell you the truth. Not all city folk are cunning goblins. Gyan takes a deep breath, then stretches her legs out and looks at you kindly. Your truth tales are of great value, and if you come here after winter, we'll show you honesty and a safe roof as well. Out of curiosity, do I have anything that you would... No, okay. I could have tried to get the dragon horn from them. It just doesn't seem all that relevant. Not anymore, right? So 3:45. Yeah, we're going to make it. I don't need to go back to Foggy's or... No, I don't think I need to do anything else. All right, one last push through the heart of the woods, which I think we should be able to make. No, in fact, I'm not allowed to do that. 3 hares cross the road so quickly you barely notice them. Soon after they disappear in the shrubs, a large spotted cat shows up, trying to catch up with them. It spares you only a glance. Well, shit. Shit and also fuck. I'm not allowed to go back to the pelt either, so I guess I'm spending the night with Eudocia. Yeah, go straight to the house. Let's talk about clearing the roads. She glances into your eyes. You've already done a lot for me, and with so many rods placed around the peninsula, sending the golems into the woods won't be too much of a cost. I'll give one of them new orders before I go to sleep. Cool. I don't want her to leave. I want her to stay here and run things with the golems. So I guess that's it then. We spend our last night here in a shed. You wake up later than usual, then head to Agro slowly. It's skinnier than on the day you crossed Hag Hills. I'll find Tulia in Pelt. Tulia is waiting for you by the window, having her possessions rolled in orderly bundles and the sword by her side. She greets you with a kind nod. Today is the day, I believe. Yeah, are you all packed and ready? She rests her hands on her knees, then straightens up. I am if you are. You look outside. It's early enough for you to reach the settlements on the other side of Hag Hills. Let's introduce you to Agro. You're going to spend a lot of time together. The owners recognize you in the Bless the Empress Inn. This time around, you've got a few dragon bones to spare, and you spend the night in a proper bed, holding a mug of steaming pigeon soup. The days fade away slowly. With Tulia by your side, you can't simply outrun the autumn predators, and a few times your journey gets violent. She's a good companion, a bit quiet, but resourceful. After all the fighting I did in the north, the road isn't too rough. We certainly did. After 2 days, the roads get wider and harder, and you meet the first patrol of soldiers, as well as spot the familiar stone statues honoring the old, now destroyed villages and almost forgotten tragedies. We're here, says the lieutenant in the last village you visit before reaching the city walls. Without explaining, she approaches a few red-haired farmers that are observing you curiously from the bench in front of their pit house. After exchanging a few words with them, Tulia gestures toward you. The road warden is who should be thanked for finding him. The strangers keenly listen to your tale, then, with smiles clouded by grief, thank you for your bravery. A man who looks younger than the rest can't stop his tears once he hears his pa has been spared the cursed fate and found his end in the flames. After a silent yet delicious meal, you resume your journey, carrying with you their names and invitation. Maybe I'll meet with them in spring. After taking care of a few chores, you leave your mount in the stables, which, as it often happens, is almost empty. Your eyes are used to the usual conglomerate of ruins, the makeshift huts and sheds, the restored, whitewashed houses, and the few well-kept residences that manage to outlast the invasion. The streets are busy, with plenty of children and their young working parents. Hovlavon may have been sick in the past, but it's been healing patiently. You take your equipment to the backwood corner. It's a dangerous alley, but you know a place where coin will keep your bundles untouched. The Boarhead Inn. You listen to the rumors, but as the minutes go by, no one approaches you or asks you for help. The trade goes fine, you hear. The city chief has a daughter now. The new ship is ready to sail. The taxes are coming. The corpse of the tentacled monster that recently entered the streets has been claimed by a vendor, and they're selling it skewered. I feel like we have played our character. We have played our road warden, definitely as a sort of like watch and wait for trouble kind of person. But also, like, my mind is still on the money, right? Because we have a person that we have to take care of. So I listen carefully. Maybe someone will have a job for me. The noises of the drunken crowd hinder your sleep. You head downstairs and fully wake up only after you get served the remains of the last day's supper. Ibex stew, a piece of rat pie, and a mug of kefir. You listen to the Emperor's Mask, the hymn from the old times, coming from the window. Hovlavon is returning to work. When the messenger shows up, you let out a sigh. The merchants want to see you in an hour. You spend some time at a public bathhouse, chatting with your tails-hungry, naked neighbors. Then prepare your somewhat clean outfit. In the streets, you blend in with the working folk. On your way, the familiar faces spare you a few nods, but, as always, the city folk are too busy trying to make ends meet. I like the city, right? We determined I'm not from the city, but life in the city works well for me. That said, I want to be done with this. It's not necessarily like I have to get out of here. It could be I need to get home to see about the person I have to care for. Yeah, I'm going to take this. I head to the guild quickly. I want to be done with this. After a few hours of exhausting examination, you lean against the wall, observing the arguing leaders. Their jewelry and colorful fabrics could provide for many northern families, and maybe even pay for a new stronghold. You wouldn't recognize the priests of the United Church if it wasn't for their familiar faces. Well, at least you had more luck than that poor wretch, mentions one of the traders. No one here remembers Asterian's name. Well, the news you brought from the island is of great value. You ask for something to clear your throat. Your detailed description of the peninsula made quite an impression, and you may be asked to speak with a cartographer later, and getting in touch with so many northerners helped you describe the complex web of connections. You fill the gaps in your report. You discuss the recent disappearance of a trading caravan, the partnership with Eudocia, the few times you crossed the heart of the woods, the rumored access from the coast, the shelter by the northern road, the mine in the south. Still, it's your dealings with the tribes that will have the greatest impact on their decision. I relax and wait for them to address me. The oldest soul at the table, who started her life in the guild as a simple innkeep, smiles at you. Where do you think you should start, or where do you think we should start, Samhain? What do you mean? One of the artisans chips in. We need to discuss this in detail, of course, but we can't bring guards and builders to all the villages at once. Since you know the peninsula better than anyone, where do you think would be the best starting point? Since we Left Theus in power, I wonder if the right thing to do would be to try to direct them toward Howler's Dell or White Marshes, maybe White Marshes in particular. I want to honor what I said to the druid, to Thyrsis. I'm not helping with this. I shrug. I know nothing about trade. A clerk puts a wax tablet on top of the pile, then opens another one, letting out a long sigh. I keep writing the peninsula. Does that place have any name? Here's a question. Is it disrespectful for me to name the peninsula? Because this is the name that I give it will be one that sticks, right? But maybe it's better I do it than someone else do it and, you know, give it a name that is truly harmful. We could call it Don't Trust Theus. The Don't Trust Theus Peninsula. There's one I can think of. Let's call it Asterian's End. You motherfuckers are gonna remember his name. After 3 days, you take part in a brief meeting in the guild's chambers. You're welcomed by a few council representatives. We're going to move forward with the investment, you finally hear. Your services are appreciated. You return to the street with a wooden casket, heavy with dragon bones. You were paid fairly, but it's still not enough to save the person for whom you left the city in the first place. Shit. A wooden casket heavy with dragon bones. The amount that we were paid for the job appears to have fully dwarfed the amount that we made while we were out there. It's entirely possible that it didn't matter at all how much I came home with. Now, this is not the end. I'll find the coins I need and fix it all. I mean, clearly our character is very driven to do so, right? The flow of merchants, soldiers, explorers, and supplies brought many changes to the north. While some of the tribes tried to stay independent, they couldn't resist the temptation of new inventions, crops, and security. After a few generations, the sparse settlements were indistinguishable from the other regions of the province, with safe roads, strong walls, and regular visitors. I mean, it's not like a bad ending, but I know it's not what many of the people of the peninsula wanted. The trade route following the Western Trail greatly benefited the dwellers of Pelt of the North. After a few more years, they moved to the city, living off their savings and occasional mercenary work, forming an experienced squad. The inn, purchased by the city officials, remained one of the few shelters in the dangerous north. One of the new guards was Tulia, who arrived to Pelt soon after losing her squad, seeking stable work among the hunters. Not all the people in Howlersdale were eager to accommodate the city folk, but no one could oppose Thais and her guards, who received a juicy cut of the inflowing wealth. Despite lacking in resources, new hamlets of lumberjacks, stonecutters, and trappers were built, allowing them to cut their dependence on the other villages. More and more words of the city folk sunk into the speech of the locals, and as time went on, their customs changed. After the priests of the rite arrived, the mayor was among the first souls to convert. The influence of the druids dwindled, never to recover. Egidia never forgave the sins of her neighbors. Afraid to face her mother, she decided to leave the peninsula in spring, forming a group of adventurers who were eager to save innocent lives even without pay. While she couldn't reverse the destruction of Steep House, her noble deeds helped her spend her nights in peace. That's something, I guess. I really feel like I failed a lot of people here. Steep House stood in silence, avoided by the caravans that cut a new path through the haunting clearing. It provided for a few more scavengers and gave shelter to beasts, then slowly faded away until there were but a few broken walls surrounding the paved square. The tribe of Old Pagos lost many lives to the plague, but the supplies brought to them by their friends from Gale Rocks helped them overcome the harsh winter. Thanks to the revitalized trade route, the locals returned to their craft, providing an essential material to the now growing security of the northern roads and settlements. The tribe kept their savings for the darker days, which, indeed, came rather quickly. Tertia stayed in the village, but rejected the further responsibilities of a leader, returning the power to the elders. She spent a few years patrolling the roads until, wounded by a werebadger, she became a combat instructor. Quintus eagerly joined his friends at Pelt. His next few years were full of brave hunts and drinking, until he mixed the two a bit too much, barely escaping a runner. With the help of his companions, he began his path toward maturity. Alright, feels very judgmental. I really like this thing where the credits are just like alongside the ending. The monastery, left to itself, lost any interest in the outside world. The years went on, and the sounds of hammers and songs gave way to the wind. After a century, a group of adventurers sought treasures inside the ruins, but while there were many, the main mountain had mysteriously collapsed under its own weight, as if it was hollow inside. Curious. We never did get in there and meet the prelate or anything. Aurentius kept his word and steered clear of black magic, stepping into the background of local politics. While he guided his neighbors spiritually, he no longer claimed to be a prophet. The people of White Marshes were steadily growing in comfort, not only trading with the city folk, but also offering their services as guards to the caravans and travelers, gaining more from such journeys than they ever would from their unusual soil. However, Helvius' short-sighted leadership hindered the Havlevet investments, and his tribe struggled long after his death. After getting a taste of adventure on High Island, Thyrsis stopped waiting for his people's acceptance. Having no plans to blend in Havlevon, he moved to another province, working as a guard for travelers and merchants traveling through its dark wetlands. No plans to bend in Havlevon. The lies of Yesun from Pelt made Foggy hesitant in the years to come, and unsure if she should spend her future toiling for the sake of her inn or leave it to her partner. After a few years, she sold the place to the merchants of Havlevon. Then, feeling old, betrayed, and naive, she returned to Creeks, aiding her tribe as a cook. Thanks to the new supplies gained through trade, the children of Creeks grew strong, but far from being rich. While the village was bursting with life, constantly pursuing new ideas for a better tomorrow, most of them ended in nothing. On the other hand, the locals never tied themselves too strongly with the city and maintained their unusual customs. Illa quickly realized that keeping the road safe was a much better way to earn dragon bones than selling his crooked chairs and tables. While he wasn't a fighter, he often joined the merchants traveling the peninsula, exchanging news and suggesting new investments. In the meantime, he gladly engraved the shapes of animals on cups and plates. Afrin, shaken by what happened to his friends, spent a few more years traveling with caravans and learning from other tribes about more efficient, disciplined ways of organizing hunts and foraging trips. While it wasn't easy for him to influence his family, his efforts saved many lives of the younger generations. Good, I feel like we had a hand in that, so I'm taking partial credit. The people of Gale Rocks didn't need much time to experience improvements. Selling the excess of fish and salt, they received much-needed crops and tools, and strengthened their ties with the United Church. In the years to come, their days were good and, for the most part, remained the same. Though with difficulty, the road leading through the heart of the forest was restored, maintained by the combined efforts of soldiers and the locals. While she no longer had her tribe's support, Glossia refused to abandon her new target, the people of Howler's Dell. She bothered them for a few seasons, but once her supplies ran short, she got reckless and got caught by the village guards. She died with her sickle sword in her hand. I feel extremely responsible for that one. That whole Glossia thing, I was not outfitted correctly for that. Eudocius put the bronze rods to use, sending her creations beyond the boundaries of her sight. Bored with work and having all the resources she needed, she spent many days locked in her house, meeting no one, even if they came to see her. Often, the food delivered to her was left to rot in the barrel right where it was dropped. After a few decades, a group of adventurers reached her house to ask her for help. They told stories of the many wonders they saw, but claimed that the witch was nowhere to be found. Cephas of the tribe of the Green Mountain, worried about the growing presence of the city folk, decided to meet with the soldiers garrisoned at the watchtower by the eastern road and describe the borders of the tribe's territory. The tense negotiations would recur once every few years, at one point turning into an open conflict, but the officials struggled to beat the locals on their own land. Finally, the village in the mountains was left to itself, and their recent victory gave them hope that High Island might one day be reclaimed. Samhain, the road warden of Asterian's End, quickly returned to their routine of city folk, seeking risky, profitable opportunities while taking harsh jobs in the harbor, but to no avail. With the arrival of winter, they knew they couldn't wait for luck any longer. To save their loved one, they had to sell their mount to the guild. They spent the next few brief, violent years paying off their debts as a mercenary, escorting expeditions of the wealthy. Well, that's a pretty sad ending in a lot of ways, but there's something really appropriate about it, I think. Like, there are a number of things about this game that bring the Disco Elysium to mind. And one of them is the way that sort of like the individuality of person and place feels like it's going to be inexorably steamrolled by capital. And to a certain extent, I like that that's what happened in our ending. I like that particular sad ending. Because it feel like it says as much about this place and its people as any happy ending could have. And I'm especially pleased that the tribe of the Green Mountain seems to be holding their own. But yeah, I definitely am bummed that we were not able to find a way to convince people not to go north. Now, technically, we're done here. However, I want to try to deal with the Theus situation. I want to go to, that's our canonical ending, whatever. I want to see what happens if we try to do something about the Steep House situation. So let's just replay that last day. We'll go west first, because apparently I will not have time to do both. And I mean, this is really all I'm doing, right? So let's prepare as much as we can, which is to say, I'm going to go see the Elder, and then I'm going to go see Agidia, and then we'll go to Howler's Dell and see if it makes any difference. A flock of colorful birds is circling in the sky. The old man shuts the door with a resonant thud. What do you need, traveler? Well, I found Asterion. His eyes widen after you mention the undead from a cave. Once he speaks, his voice is shaking. Awoken by the fogs, you released him from the worst fate. To know the truth, he sighs. It feels right. Okay, so we didn't actually get... He's not going to help us. That's fine. To the fishing hamlet. Hey, Agidia, you want to come depose your mom with me? Nope, it's time for me to leave, I guess. Alright, well... you approach the opening gate, then swiftly dismount. A guard approaches you, ready to take your mount to a stable. Good to see you. How are your journeys? And we gossip for a bit. Because I want the people of the village on my side as much as possible here. Curious locals gather around to take part in your conversation. Recently, 2 teens suddenly announced their engagement, and no soul knows when it started. Alright. I had to be on... Okay, there's nothing... No talking to be on to do. Elpis, tell me about your faith. I'm going to say this now. Now that we're not trying to get her to like us anymore, I want to try to, we need to know everything about her pressure points, about what will convince her, what she's ashamed of, what she's afraid of being perceived as. There are many rumors surrounding druids. Some of them portray you as rather cruel. And no one ought to seek wisdom in every mouth they see. Her thin lips form a smirk, but her voice gets stronger. The butchers of the Unites are driven by fear, afraid to admit their old malice, to give up on their dreams of power, of comfort. They make us the monsters of their tales, for they want their people to look away as they hunt us. We're a mirror of their weakness, the sun to their shadow. We're the proof that they do not have to rule. Interesting. Alright, let me go to the main square here. Let's approach Eric's. Okay, I can't do anything here except... Yeah. 8 rings. Wine, you say? I do not know much about it, other than that the city folk used to drink it before the war. Maybe our mayor would want to take a sip. Okay, I'll ask her. Maybe I shouldn't talk to her first. I don't know. We can try this a couple of times. We can experiment with approaches. I'm just kind of curious if there's something that could be done. She'll be here soon, so she shows up. She's so happy to see me. I found Asterion. You describe the island and the cave, but before you mention the Road Warden's shell, she leans away and sighs. Leave this to the bards. Is he dead or not? After your one-word response, she waves it off. Very well, I'll tell the others. I found this bottle of wine. You have any idea what it is? With wide open eyes, she observes the engraved letters, rotating the bottle gently. She pulls out the wax seal and sniffs the contents. Her voice is tense and quiet. You're tempting me to lie to you, but as a mayor, I'm obliged to honor those who've helped our village. One day in the past, this bottle stored Knight's Banes, one of the priciest drinks I saw while I was in Havlavan many years ago. Even back then, it was worth about 100 dragons. She seals it again. Most likely, the liquid inside is not the real deal, but I wouldn't know. Better take it to the merchants. Here, you won't find any wine collectors. She says this with a smirk and adjusts her cape. Huh. This is a fucked up thing to say. I don't want her to be aware that I'm onto her. Thank you for your honesty. Eric's shows up with a plate of red radishes, salted, roasted, and cut into slices. He invites you both to help yourselves, but before he leaves, Theus grabs his hand and looks into his eyes. They smile at each other without a word. After a few heartbeats, she turns back toward you. I don't really know your plans, Samhain. Are you planning to stay in the north? Maybe find a family? Well, I already have a family, and they need me back home. Oh, I see. Her smile is as encouraging as her voice. Leaving behind those dear to you would be cowardice, her husband chips in, then walks away. Okay, I'm going. Do we want to tell her anything else? I don't want to tell her that. I don't want to tell her that. I don't want to tell her this. What would be the benefit of telling her? This either gets her to say, oh yeah, we should help them, or it quietly puts Creeks on her hit list as in next after White Marshes. I'm going to say it. I'm curious. The people of Creeks face many struggles. Your tale takes quite a few minutes. Not only does Theus have many questions, she finally asks Eric's to bring her a wax tablet, in which she starts making notes. Once you're done, she lets out a relieved sigh and speaks more to herself than to you. If it just so happens that the tribe will need my help, I'll be prepared to answer their call. She looks you in the eyes and smiles warmly, then closes the tablet loudly. Okay, they're on the ledger now. I guess that's all I have to say. I don't know. Do I want to tell her this? Does this change anything? I feel like her having information is bad, broadly. She also stands up. Once you have a moment, talk with Akakios. He has something for you. A small token of our appreciation. I nod and walk away. Hey, Akakios, what's up? The mayor said you have something for me? Yep, 'tis right here. He reaches for a tube that's on the edge of the countertop, tapping it with his long fingers. It's made of hardened leather and has a long strap to carry it on one's shoulder. Here, our token of gratitude. His voice doesn't hold back even a pinch of sarcasm. If Theus asks you about it, tell her I gave you a nice speech and you felt very appreciated. Yeah, I will, thanks. He smiles. Open it. Took me plenty of hours. You slide out a single scroll. The outer side is covered with a picture of a tree that bears no leaves nor fruits and was painted with a couple of shades of blue and purple, the most expensive dyes. The inner side is covered with red letters, which reads as follows. No friend of Howler's Dell walks hungry. May Samhain feast with us to the end of the sky and trees. Who made this? Was it this? What, her? No, it is all me. He stands proudly, sideways to you, with a hand on his hip. It took me a good couple of hours, and that's a nice piece of skin you've got there. I like to draw in winter. See this tree? 'Tis the one. He points at the one that stands in the middle of the square. There's some similarity. I read it out loud. What does it mean? Well, it lets you stay in Ape Ale for nothing with victuals. He wipes the sweat off his forehead. Bian will also honor it, at least when it comes to patching your jacket. Oh, well, thank you. Gosh, the people here, I'm doing this for their good. Alright, nothing for now. Okay. So will it reduce the price of the clothing? No. We could get fancy, but I don't know that it makes any sense to do so. And yeah, my stuff is basically as good as it's getting. All right. Elpis. Oh, sorry, no, I need to decide what to do with what I've learned about Steep House. You're standing in the middle of the islet, taking a good look at the village. The locals follow their daily routines. Children are playing tag. The trees are turning golden brown. You listen to the humming creek and a singing old woman. Yet you can see what's beneath that. A home to raiders who led dozens of humans to their death. If you decide to act, you'll only have one shot at this. Starting a storm without the firm support of the locals will paint you as a threat. If Theus was able to keep her power despite her deeds, she surely has strong support, and she may not yield to you even if openly confronted. So we could just report everything to the officials back home and let them decide if they should get involved. I'm actually really curious about that option. Hold on, we're gonna create a save that we can jump back to try that too. We're just in exploratory territory now. So we can offer an alliance. It's not that difficult. We've prepared the peninsula really well. It's not that difficult to make the trade thing happen. But I want to try to oust her at least for the harm she did to Steep House. And I think this is the only way to do that. I ought to do my best to weaken the mayor's position. The druids may help me with that. You think of your previous conversations with Elpis. While she is surely respected in the village and seems to have unusual talents, so far her attitude toward the mayor has been rather timid. Unless you can present a good case to make her turn against Theus, you doubt she's going to keep your conversation a secret. Well, let's hope she'll listen to reason. After some time, the two of you are wandering in the forest garden. The thumping of the druidess's staff as she walks disappears in the overwhelming noise. A few hunters and other druids are on the verge of sight, looking out for beasts. She finally breaks the silence. Why do you want to speak of Steep House? Before you left the village, the suspicious looks of the guards convinced you that the mayor already knows about your stroll. Howler's Dell doesn't need to grow anymore. We must stop Theus, for she will never be full. She doesn't respond at first, instead staring at an apple rotting on a branch. She picks it gently, then touches the branch. Its leaves grow stronger and larger. You're right, she says carefully, but now there are many like her. I may have my doubts, but I'm trusted to never seek control, only to give advice. You keep following the many beaten trails. The bright, sparse woods are nothing like those you've seen in the other parts of the peninsula. I'm listening. Well, you know I'm trustworthy. I wouldn't try to sabotage your neighbors. She stops in place and turns toward you, holding her staff by her side. Her eyes are warm like a spring day, and she smiles gently. I trust you, and so do my neighbors. I cannot be sure what you're saying is true, but I doubt you're lying. Okay. Maybe I shouldn't have clicked on the thing that had the "this is risky" symbol next to it right away, but that seems to have worked out. I mean, do you really believe that Theus can stay? That she won't cause further harm? She stops and observes the carcass of a hedgehog. Judging by the tracks, it was butchered by a badger. It may be true that, so far, you haven't added fuel to her plans. She crouches slightly, giving the shell a closer look. Ants, she says, then steps around it. My neighbors gained a lot from her past choices. My judgment means a lot to them, but she showed she will protect us, even if the price is too high. Aren't you worried about the future of your gathering? You grow in comfort, but from what I've seen, you are detached from the teachings you shared with me, or the ones I've heard from the altar warden. We pay close attention to the teachings of our ancestors, and are not too proud to see the seasons are not, are not too proud to see that the seasons are not the same as they used to be. The animals come and go, some packs were broken and new tribes moved in. Our village is bound to change as well, and we would be blind to think our teachings will never have to grow. She stops and looks back in the direction of Howlers, though you see only tree trunks and shrubs. 'Tis true that these changes occur too fast for my heart. I don't know if she's going to be responsive to this because she just got done saying, I think that there are too many here who are like her. Let's change the topic. What else is there to say? You must admit that what happened to the village was terrible. She slackens her pace. I must. And you act as if your neighbors have acknowledged their deeds, but everyone treats it like a secret? The youngest generation isn't even aware of what happened. Which we know because we tried to talk to Agidia about the thing. It was the elders from the cave last request before he left us. I'll spare you my wrath, he said, if you keep the children's hearts unstained until they reach a certain age. The forest speakers ought to help them find a lesson in your greed and cruelty. She stops in place, observing a red-dotted mushroom. She crouches, digs it out with a knife, and puts it into a sack. When Theus made the decision that this certain age would never come, I didn't dare to oppose her. Our neighbors trusted her. Okay, that fills in some things for us, for sure. And she's planning to strike White Marshes next. How many villages does she need to destroy? You notice her surprised frown, but she doesn't respond. She leads you north, closer to the main road. And I know the druids played a role in the raid. The village fields are cursed to this day. As the gathering, we didn't agree to the raid, but we agreed to protect our children, siblings, and cousins during their strike, with Numa and advice. A long pause. After we breached the wall, they forced us to keep pushing. Some elders were hurt, others caved in. Her voice cracks. And does your gathering regret helping her? We do, she said softly. Some were broken by it. Well, apparently that's all I have to say about that. I feel like I should also say the other line that was there about how now you can help fix your mistakes, but apparently not. As you move forward, her staff rhythmically hits the ground. So do we ask what her decision is? She seemed to be pretty amenable to all of our points so far, and I don't know if I want to say another risky thing when it seems like she's on our side. This doesn't, I don't know, like just looking at the words here though, this doesn't feel like this could have a bad outcome. I also follow my ancestors. I'm trying to make things right. But I guess the place where I guess this could be bad is that it presents it as though I have some personal stake when I definitely don't. I'm like, I think I'm not going to say this. What's your decision? Will you speak with the others? You approach a giant oak, older than any other tree in the garden. It's surrounded by trails of shoes and paws, yet it is oddly quiet, even though there are dozens of birds in its crown, spread among the branches like the faithful on temple pews. Elpis reaches for the long claw marks left on the bark. She touches them with the palm of her hand gently, then scratches them with her fingernails, adding a few more cuts, fresh and dripping with sap. The birds, still without as much as a caw, take off loudly, maybe 100 of them at once, and in such a panic that a few of them crash into branches or one another. Before you can take a closer look, your companion moves her staff in front of you, then nods for you to follow her away from here. You glance at the claw marks once more. Worms are already rushing toward them. After another minute of the stroll, the woman speaks again. Can I help you? It may be better for you to stay away from Howler's Dell from this day on. This is nae kind to her enemies. Okay. I mean, do I harangue her about it? Do I think that could possibly help? I ask you to reconsider is not going to do anything. Have you no shame? You're leading innocent souls to their deaths. Her lips form a line, but she spares you not a word of response. She quickens her pace, holding her weapon firmly. Your steps are heavy. You look around. Not only would you not escape their scouts and hunters, but your mountain equipment are still in the village. You try to come up with a new argument, a point of view, to remind yourself of something you've seen in the ruins. But I've got nothing more to say. Soon after you enter the gates, you're welcomed by 5 guards led by the mayor herself. You have something to tell me, Forest Speaker, she asks your companion, and spares you little more than a disdainful chuckle. You're led into Apeale and placed on a chair, with a muscular hand keeping you in place. Elpis hides nothing, not even her own willingness to listen to your accusations. You follow the guards' faces. No matter what they hear, they obediently observe their boss, putting their trust in her decisions. Finally, the first kick reaches your stomach. You can't even tell which word or gesture led to it, but it's soon followed by a hit on the jaw. Go, Theus tells the druidess, who leaves without a word. I say nothing? I'm warning you isn't going to get me anywhere. I am very much on the weekend of this situation, and she knows it. They all know it. I say nothing. You lost your token of gratitude. The beating is short but effective. The blood from your mouth covers your clothes. Your ribs ache at every move. You're still a road warden, so I guess we ought to let you be. The mayor's voice is bored and carries not a hint of the city folk accent. Now get out, and do not return unless you're going to handsomely support our artisans. You place careful steps through the square, surrounded by whispers and worried looks. Your mount welcomes you with a hearty snort, but to you it sounds like mockery. Tasting iron, you wash your mouth and think of the last smirk formed on Theus's wine-colored lips. I won. I head to the gate and climb on the saddle. And we end up at the south... Oh, no, this is the western crossroads. So yeah, we definitely wouldn't be able to reach... I'm assuming I wouldn't be allowed to go into the gate at this point anyway. Oh, no. Apparently I am. Travel to the other end of the woodland. You approach the monkeys' territory. Oh, they're going to get it. While the dwellers still grunt and shout at you, you don't see any flying sticks and acorns. I'm fucking them up. 2 precise shots from the crossbow should be enough to discourage them. Loading a crossbow from a saddle isn't easy, but you've got time. You catch the second quarrel with your teeth, aim carefully, and pull the trigger. The colorful beast falls down in silence. Its companions point at the fallen shell, shouting as it doesn't move. The panic spreads through the troop, giving you time to reload. Soon another creature hits the ground, this time screaming in pain. The monkeys flee through the trees and either hide behind the trunks or observe you from denser leaves. I ride forward, shaking my weapon in the air. Fuck them. You find a new segment of the road which seems to be shorter, but you need to cover some distance on foot, cutting the dried out branches. The tree crowns have been merciless. Hardly any ferns or grasses have managed to survive in these shadows. You spot a 10-year-old dark tree that's about twice your height, yet looks like a sapling when compared to the giants around it. Its thin branches are leafless, hanging like the limbs of an exhausted worker. Right under the tree, there's a dead red boar, too large for you to lift it. Its tusk could be worth a few coins, but the scavengers may show up any moment now. Let's examine the area quickly. The tree is a bit away from the other weak or dead plants. You walk around it and spot a bloodstain on the trunk near the only hollow. You don't notice any wounds on the boar, at least not from a distance, but also no signs of any illnesses. It's not young. Its heart could have just stopped working. You realize that such young trees almost never have hollows in them. They don't have time to grow branches thick enough to cause new holes as they fall. Let me look at this tree a little bit more closely. Even a stronger gust of wind doesn't move the tree's thin branches. I throw a rock at the tree. The sound it makes resembles hitting the ground. The creature doesn't roar or howl, but the movements of its limbs let out wood-like creaks. It swings them furiously, aiming in your direction. I did not know there were treants. I'm gonna burn this shit down. Fuck this forest. I'm in a bad mood now. I make a torch, ready to set the beast on fire. I can't imagine shooting at it with a crossbow is gonna do anything. Keeping an eye on the treant, you pull out the wooden stave, examine the rags tied to its end, then cover them with oil. From your tinderbox, you unpack the flint, the linen charcloth, and the cube-like piece of harsh pyrite. Thanks to a bit of luck, you make a couple sparks quickly. You hold the flame in front of you. The beast's swings get more focused, and its bottom limbs are now uprooted. It crawls toward you. How dare it! I swing it in front of me, trying to set some smaller branches on fire. I'm going to catch the thing on fire and make it flee, right? The limbs are nimble and unpredictable, ending with dozens of finger-like twigs. You do your best to scorch at least some of them, but to no avail. At one point, the entire treant leans forward and grabs the torch, pulling it so fiercely you almost end within its grasp. I let it go and run away. Agro needs no encouragement. Holding your breath, you get into the saddle, then take one more look at the monster. It swings its branches and roots in all directions, and its thicker limbs are now longer and as nimble as the tentacles of a sea monster. One of them is still holding your torch, while another one is swinging the dead boar as if it's a doll. Well, at least we're alive. I guess. Agro stops, then steps back. There's a cat the size of a bear. I was expecting to get through this pretty cleanly. You need a whole squad to overcome such a creature. Well, if it's here to drink, maybe it's not hungry? We ride to the other side quickly. Oh, I died. Your palfrey observes you with a snort. The cat turns around in silence, observing you with its only eye. The other one has been lost to claws. The ride feels like it goes on forever, but then the beast lets out a loud roar. It leaps forward, then again, faster than any human. It hits at the horse's rump, knocking the large animal down. You've managed to jump off, saving your legs from the crushing weight, but the cat doesn't stop. Soon your skull crushes. Hold on, let me try that again. Alright, I gotta scare it away somehow. You get on the ground, prepare your equipment, and with the blinding powder in hands, head toward the creature. So far, it hasn't noticed you. I sneak. You try to stay calm, observing the legs of the creature, as large as tree stumps. After a few breaths, it raises its head, shakes its hairy ears, and looks in your direction with its only eye. The other one has been lost to claws. It springs to its paws and shakes its graceful fur, then takes the first step forward. I stand straight, making myself as tall as I can, with raised shoulders and chest out. Your movements are stiff and you expose your weakest points, but for the cat, that's far from obvious. It gets slower. The eye runs from you to your mount to the woods. It approaches you with slightly bent knees, from time to time stopping in place. Trying to convince this cat that I'm not afraid of it. I look directly into its eye and do my best not to blink. Does a stare down work on a cat? If I pretend to look around, I think it's going to take the opportunity. Yeah, I look directly into its eye and try not to blink. It's orange like flame, with a small black pupil that's keenly observing you from beneath the lowered eyelid. The creature slows down, but you're the first one to blink. After a minute, the cat is close enough to jump on you, and then I throw the blinding powder in its face. The dust hits the creature's nose and closes its eye, maybe for now, maybe forever. It tries to shake the powder off, and as you step away, the cat doesn't follow you. It reaches the woods with a couple of long leaps, as nimble as a house pet crossing a backyard, even if, in the end, it crashes against a trunk. It walks away slowly, blending in with the plants. It matches their colors perfectly. Okay, so we made it over here. We don't get to talk to the tribe. We do get to go see Eudocia at least. Yep, I go in. Asterian's dead. I want to collect my reward. I guess we're done. Let's talk about clearing the roads. Do I want to try... We can offer to help her with a thing. Yeah, deal. I'll do it. Which I'm not actually going to do, so I don't know what the value of doing that was. I kind of want to see a different ending for her. Maybe it's the right time to offer her work in the city. I have something important to discuss. She puts her stuff away and looks at your ear, frowning. Are you taking off your mask? We're friendly. We joke around. She did a metaphor. I could do... this isn't really like a sensible answer to the thing she said, though. It's getting cold. I'd rather keep my clothes on. Her grimace of disgust makes you move away. Don't even try it. And just in case, take a walk with me, just so you don't get too comfortable. While we're heading toward the gate, I tell her about my deal with the guild. You mention the merchants, the officials, the high status of the enchanters among the city folk. She lets you speak without interruption, observing the surroundings. Still barefoot and with a worn robe, she looks like a cook in an herbal garden. You approach the pond and she takes a deep breath. The geese in the distance are as gray as her irises. Oh, we're just in time. The air is still fresh. Her tone is hard to decipher, and she keeps taking long pauses. I've built so much over so many years. Now you want me to tie myself to some coin holders, or even worse, to leave all this behind. Well, I mean, you know best how much you've learned since the day you enchanted that old chisel. In the city, you could speak with other masters, learn how to read scrolls. You'd unlock your potential. Using bits of knowledge you've read in the old codices, you mention a few respected enchanters working in the city, as well as their unique interest in magic that helps the fishers and wall builders. You mention the golemic limbs aiding workers, candles that last for days, helmets that help sailors talk during storms. She observes the birds flying toward the eastern mountains, listening carefully. Other masters. She tastes your words as she repeats them. I haven't needed them so far, but... She doesn't finish, instead giving you a kind smile. I don't think we want to talk to her about, like, the danger of this place, because she could protect herself here forever. But I guess that's kind of like, this is a total nothing. And all of these other things are about the danger of the peninsula. The city folk will start negotiations with the tribes as well. You don't have to be left out. You're close to the crag behind the residence, observing the heavy golem that's lifting large boulders and moving them aside. So far, it has formed a small pile of rocks that resemble its own limbs. You describe the support you've already gathered, as well as your further plans. I can either face the avalanche or wait for it to bury me, she summarizes, then lowers her voice. No one's going to honor my own will. Well, I guess I have to keep saying these things that I don't think are valuable. The peninsula's a dangerous place with little help to offer. I know that better than anyone. You mentioned the monsters you've encountered, the destruction of Steep House, the rumors about the undead, the troll from the old camp in Hag Hills, the plague, the missing hunters, her own fear of the bandits. She hesitates still. I guess I ought to trust you on this one. Well, if that found purchase, then you know how easy it is to suddenly disappear in this land. Just think about Asterion. I'd rather not. She rubs her arms above her elbows as if to warm herself up. I'm just glad you were able to find him, that's all. Can you be sure the monks won't turn their neighbors against you? She cocks her head to the side. So far they've done naught to hurt me. I went as far away from them as I could have. I bothered no one. And yet Ilya is already scheming against you. He wanted me to spy on your golems, to find their weaknesses. Her voice cracks. Did you? No. She sizes you up, then looks at the clouds and takes a step back. The hint of gratitude in her eyes is hidden beneath the sorrow. So what's your decision? You answer a few more questions about the city, and her doubtful glances are slowly replaced with polite nods. So all I have is your word for now, but that's better than naught. For a few more breaths, you listen to the branches and grass trampled by your feet. Finally, Eudocia looks in the distance and gestures for you to follow her back to the gate. Now I'll speak with your puppeteers, and I've got a little gift for them. A gift. A sign of goodwill. She waves it off. Let me gather my thoughts. You reach the front yard, greeted by Agro's curious snort. The enchantress enters her house briefly and brings you what looks like a plank made of rock shards. Tell them I made this 10 years ago. It should be enough to convince them my golems are real. What is it? Well, she invites you to stretch out your hand, then grabs your fingers with her own. Her touch is cold. A keepsake from the time I needed to build my first sentinel. The rocks clench to your skin, from your wrist to your shoulder, like a sleeve. Your arm gets slightly heavier, but the sensation fades away. And don't shake anyone's hand while wearing this. Her words carry both pride and melancholy. It takes time to get used to my spell's strength. To take it off, just give a rapid pull here. She grabs it close to your shoulder, and the golem glove falls away. Even though the rocks aren't connected to each other in any visible way, they keep their general shape. As long as you don't push any of the parts too fiercely, the pneuma will hold. Wow. Thank you for your trust, Eudocia. This is wild. The golem glove. After she meets your eyes, her bewilderment gives way to a warm smile. With that, I think it's just time to sleep. You struggle to sleep, thinking of the soul you care for the most. You came here to find the coins they need, and your journey was so long. But now it seems like you've finally reached the goal. I go to my bags and grab the bottle of Nightsbane. You unpack the wine, remembering the way you earned it. You sniff the expensive contents, even though to you it smells like any other drink based on fermented fruits. It's strange to realize that this very bottle may be your savior. Your soul is filled with visions of opulence, but you push them away. You know what you need to do with it. You take a deep breath. You've done it. This is it. I take a wooden box and fill it with rags. I want to be sure I don't damage the bottle before I get back to the city. It sounds easy. Your hands are shaking. It's hard to believe how much you own, a single human being, and that the purpose of your journey is no longer a dream. You suddenly feel tired. You deserve a good, long sleep. Huh. Maximum vitality grew to 5. It's super weird that, we went back to town with that bottle and weren't able to identify it in town. I guess we must have gotten scammed out of it. Alright. So we go ahead and we finish the adventure. I'm going to quick click through a lot of this, but I want to see the bits where the ending is different. After the fighting you did in the north, the road's not too tough. Maybe I'll meet with them in spring. I'm not going to change most of this. I no longer need to be obsessed about whether or not I can make some money, though. I simply remain watchful. Things are not as quiet as they seem. Okay, this stuff's all the same. I'll buy Agro a few apples on my way back. We're doing okay, actually. Yep, I relax and wait for them to address me. What do you mean? I definitely tell them to go to White Marshes. White Marshes is weakened and lacks guidance. You could turn it into the perfect outpost. I am still calling it Asterian's End. I think that was a good name. Alright. Heavy with dragon bones. You got enough to, in combination with what you brought for the north, you've got enough to save the person for whom you left the city in the first place. Do I just try to find a buyer, or do I hire someone to help me protect my wealth? I'm a pretty canny fighter at this point, but I guess I'm a fighter of beasts, not of people, and the game does make the distinction several times. I'm gonna try to handle it myself. It makes me so nervous that we were given the chance to do this. Time to find the buyer for the Knight's Bane. Okay, we don't get a direct thing here. This all looks the same. The pelt is the same. Okay. While Howler's Dell wasn't at first considered a crucial part of the new trade route, Thea's charm managed to bridge the gap between her and the council representatives. And if there were any objections, they were muffled underneath her iron fist. However, lacking in resources, the village could never fully be free of its dependence on the other tribes. The mayor converted, Egidia did noble adventuring. Okay, so things are a little bit less good for Howler's Dell. All of this stuff is the same. This stuff is the same. His tribe left behind the lean years once he grew too weak to uphold his position. Okay, so I did make things a little bit better for White Marshes, which I think is, this is a better outcome, obviously. This is sad. I should have told Jason to go fuck himself, but I was nervous about, making money and getting favor, and I engaged in too much cowardice. This is all the same. Ephraim did some good work. Yeah, this is still sad. Eudosha agreed to do some work for the city folk, earning a great amount of luxurious wares. But since every request she got was a variation on making a weapon even more lethal, the boredom of repetition started to push her to her limits. She spent many days locked in her house, meeting no one. One day, soldiers barged in, worried about her long absence. They told stories of the many wonders they saw inside, but claimed that the witch had died without any wounds, even though there was blood on her rotting lips. The tribe of the Green Mountain, worried about the growing presence of city folk, ended up blocking the trail that connected it to the rest of the peninsula. Right, because we didn't tell them that they could maybe sometimes trust people. Every once in a while, the rumors of pagans of weird tongues seen by the Eastern Trail spread among the merchants, but a keen listener would notice that such tales always differed when it came to describing the tribe's clothing, weapons, and skin. Samhain, the road warden of Asterian's End, quickly returned to the routine of city folk. Having a mount to support and no savings left for themselves, they faced a few lean seasons, but the knowledge and skills they gathered on their journey, as well as the support of their loved ones, helped them become a reliable messenger, valued among the villages spread around Hovlevan. I'm calling that little bit of it part of my canon ending. I got back to town with the Knight's Bane. I don't know, it's really interesting that the only way I was able to identify the Knight's Bane was to get my ass kicked again and to completely fail at deposing Theus. I don't know what I missed. I'm sure there was some critical piece of information that I didn't have, or there must have been something I could have done. I guess must is strong. It really feels like there should have been something I could have done to make Egidia come home with us and challenge her mother, right? Like, I don't know. Whatever it was, I couldn't figure it out. Listen, there's a lot of stuff going on in this game. I'm sure lots of people have very different playthroughs. If you also played through this game, especially if you played through prompted by seeing it here on the channel, and things went differently for you, please do feel free to leave that stuff below in the comments. I'd be very interested to hear the stories of other people's Road Wardens. But yeah, that's our journey here. A couple of different endings, perhaps a couple of different versions of our journey here through Road Warden. I had a great time. I hope y'all had a great time. When you come back next week, we're going to be starting up one more of these text-heavy story games. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you will as well. And we'll see you then.